5:14 in the morning, the first contact appears on the screen. Not 1, 5. Inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, the radar repeater blooms with 5 fast-moving surface tracks, punching north through the Strait of Hormuz. Their signatures are small. Their speed is not. They are low on the water, hard to see with the naked eye. But the system sees them instantly, bearing steady, range dropping, formation irregular, then tightening. A watchstander leans toward the console, eyes locked. 5 fast surface contacts, closing hard. On the flight deck above, the morning had started like any other. Crewmen were moving through the first rhythm of the day. Jet fuel hung faint in the air. The sea was calm enough to look harmless. Gray light stretched across the water, turning the horizon into a flat line of steel. Then the tone sounds. Not panic, not chaos, just the sharp, unmistakable pulse that tells every sailor within earshot that something has changed. On the bridge, heads turn toward the starboard side. Binoculars come up. The carrier does not alter course, not yet. A ship this size does nothing quickly and nothing without reason. That is why the first response is not motion. It is confirmation. In CIC, the tracks update again. Speed increasing, course committed. Closest point of approach shrinking. A second voice cuts in, calm and clipped. Recommend classification. No one says attack, not yet. In waters like these, assumptions are dangerous. Fishing boats drift, local traffic wanders. Civilian hulls do strange things in tight maritime corridors. But civilian boats do not come in at this speed, from this angle, in a 5-ship pattern aimed at the outer edge of a U.S. carrier formation. That part matters, because this is not just a ship. It is a moving airfield wrapped in steel and escorted by warships built to kill at distance. Around it, the screen is already reacting. One destroyer on the outer ring begins edging across the water, adjusting position by a few degrees, then a few more. Not enough for drama, just enough to put itself between the fast movers and the carrier's exposed flank. Quiet authority, controlled geometry. Below deck, the tactical picture sharpens. Optical systems come online. Long-range cameras punch through the early haze. Infrared overlays snap into place. One by one, the contacts begin to take form. Narrow hulls, high bows, fast attack profiles. Heavy spray kicking off both sides as they slam through the chop. Then comes the confirmation. Iranian-type fast boats. No one needs it repeated. The Strait of Hormuz is narrow enough to compress bad decisions into seconds. There is no wide ocean here. No luxury of distance. One aggressive move inside a tight waterway can turn a tense intercept into a live engagement before half the deck even knows what happened. On the bridge, the captain studies the horizon through magnified glass, then lowers it. Track them, log everything, no assumptions. That is the order, not because the danger is small, because it is real. Out on the water, the 5 boats are now visible to the naked eye, small against the size of the carrier, almost insignificant at first glance. But small craft are deceptive in confined waters. They move fast, they turn faster, and if armed, they can force a warship into a split-second rules of engagement problem no captain wants to solve late. The lead boat shifts slightly left. 2 others begin spacing wide, opening the pattern. The last pair stay back just enough to suggest discipline. Inside CIC, one operator zooms in on the lead craft and freezes the frame. Exposed crew, forward mount, possible heavy weapon. No one overreacts. That is the difference between a trained warship and a frightened one. The carrier holds steady. The escorts keep moving. Weapons crews across the formation quietly man stations. Safety covers come off. Tracking systems align. Somewhere on an escort, a CIWS mount rotates a few degrees and stops. Enough to be seen, not enough to escalate. That is the language of naval power in a place like this. Precision, posture, control. At 5:16, the range closes again fast. The boats are no longer just approaching the formation. They are testing it. Their wakes stretch long and white behind them. Clear even in the slant light of dawn. They are riding hard, bows lifting, engines pushing at full commitment. No loiter, no drift, no confusion. Whatever this is, it is intentional. A voice from surface tracking speaks without emotion. CPA continuing to shrink. Another beat, then one more line, quieter than the last and more dangerous. Lead contact is now on direct intercept geometry. On the flight deck, sailors turn and stare over the edge. Even from up here, the speed is obvious. The boats are coming fast enough to look wrong against the calm of the sea, like rounds fired low across glass. The captain says nothing for a moment. Then, standby warnings. The carrier still does not blink, but all around it, steel is waking up. At 5:17, the first warning goes out. Calm, flat, professional. Unidentified fast craft. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. You are approaching a U.S. naval formation at unsafe speed and bearing. Alter course immediately. The message rolls across open maritime frequencies and disappears into the morning air. No reply. Inside the Combat Information Center, nobody looks surprised. The 5 boats are still coming, their tracks now firm on the screen. No drift, no hesitation. What had started as a possible surface anomaly is now something else entirely. The formation is too clean, the timing is too deliberate. These are not fishermen caught in the wrong place. This is a coordinated run. A second warning is transmitted. Shorter, sharper, more direct. Still nothing. No static, no broken signal. No confusion on the net. Just silence. That silence matters. In the Strait of Hormuz, radio silence from a fast-approaching military craft is not neutral. It is a decision. On the bridge, the captain keeps his eyes forward. He does not bark orders. He does not dramatize the moment. He watches the geometry of the encounter unfold exactly the way professional naval officers are trained to read it. Not emotionally, mechanically. Speed, bearing, intent, space, time. One of the escorts pushes farther out from the screen, tightening the angle between itself and the approaching swarm. Another ship adjusts by only a few degrees, enough to protect the carrier's outer lane without visibly breaking formation. From above, the movement would look almost invisible. From inside the tactical plot, it is precise. 5 small boats against a carrier strike group sounds uneven on paper. In open water, it is. But inside a narrow maritime corridor, fast craft can create a different kind of danger. Not because they can overpower a carrier, but because they can force decisions. Dangerous, rapid, irreversible decisions inside compressed space. That is the game now. The camera feed sharpens. The lead Iranian boat is riding high over its own weight. Hull slamming down hard between crests. 2 others widen slightly off its rear quarter, opening lateral spacing. The final pair hang back just enough to suggest control. Not chaos. It is not a mob. It is a pattern. A surface warfare officer studies the feed and says what everyone already knows. Swarm profile, coordinated. The flight deck begins to change. The shift is subtle at first. A small group of crew clears a lane. A tow tractor pulls back. Deckhands move faster, but not louder. Near the edge of the deck, an MH-60R Seahawk is pushed toward launch readiness. Rotor blades are unlocked. Ground crew move around it with the speed that comes from repetition, not adrenaline. Nobody needs to explain what that means. The carrier is preparing options. At 5:18, one of the Iranian boats surges ahead of the others, just slightly enough to become the point of the spear. Lead contact, increasing speed. CIC reports. Now separating from group, the range ticks down again. Warnings are transmitted a 3rd time, then repeated for clarity. The message is unmistakable. Alter course, reduce speed, stay clear of the formation. Still no response. Instead, the boats keep pressing in. The destroyer screening the carrier's flank increases speed. White water boils harder behind its stern. It is no longer simply present. It is beginning to shape the battle space, placing steel between the carrier and the incoming craft. Inside the Escorts' mount positions, gun crews are now fully manned. Safety lines are checked. Feed systems are verified. Optical trackers hold steady on the approaching boats. Nothing has fired. Nothing is close to firing. But the line is getting thinner. Electronic warfare teams begin picking up low-level emissions from the Iranian craft. Not a weapons lock, not fire control radar. Something lighter. Surface search behavior. Passive tracking mixed with short active sweeps. They're painting the formation, someone says. That changes the texture of the encounter. The boats are no longer just closing. They are observing, measuring, reading the carrier group even as they run toward it. On the bridge, the captain receives the update and nods once. Document all emissions. Hold formation. That order says everything. Do not flinch. Do not overreact. Do not give them the picture they came for. At 5:19, the boats are close enough that sailors on the outer decks can see movement aboard them without magnification. Dark silhouettes, helmets, arms braced against mounted frames. One man on the lead boat is visible near the bow, body low, one hand gripping what looks like a forward weapons post. The sea between the two sides is collapsing fast. What looked distant on radar minutes ago now feels immediate, physical, and wrong. The boats are no longer abstract threats on a screen. They are real hulls punching through real water toward one of the most valuable warships on Earth. Then one of them makes the move. The lead Iranian craft snaps a few degrees inward, tightening onto a direct path toward the outer screen of the carrier formation. In CIC, the watch team sees it at once. Lead contact has altered course. A half-second later, direct intercept geometry confirmed. No one raises their voice. No one needs to, because the warnings have been sent, the radios worked, the messages were heard, and 5 Iranian fast boats are still charging straight at a US aircraft carrier. At 5:20, the helicopter lifts. The MH-60R Seahawk rises off the deck in a blast of rotor wash and salt spray, nose dipping forward almost the moment its wheels leave the non-skid. Below it, the carrier keeps its course. No sudden turn, no dramatic acceleration, just thousands of tons of steel moving exactly where they intended to move before the 5 Iranian boats ever showed up. That steadiness matters, because now the message is unmistakable. The US Navy is not repositioning out of fear. It is repositioning out of control. The Seahawk drops low over the water, skimming forward toward the outer screen where the destroyer is already taking the brunt of the geometry. From the cockpit, the picture is instantly clear. 5 Iranian fast boats, narrow hulls, high throttle, white wakes trailing behind them like blades cut into the sea. What looked tense from the carrier looks worse from above. They are not scattering, they are converging. Visual tally, the pilot reports. 5 fast craft, continuing inbound. Formation intact. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display updates in real time with every call from the helicopter. Range, bearing, speed, spacing. A second overlay tracks the movement of the screening destroyer, which has now placed itself squarely between the carrier and the lead boat. Its wake is widening, a heavy churning trail laid across the water like a drawn line. The Seahawk closes. At this distance, the details stop being theoretical. Crewmen are visible aboard the Iranian craft. One boat has at least one man forward near a mounted position. Another has 2 figures seated low behind the windshield, helmets dark against the dawn light. Their hulls are bouncing hard, slamming into the chop at full speed, but none of them back off. The helicopter pilot switches frequencies and transmits. Iranian fast craft. This is a US Navy helicopter operating in support of a United States naval formation. Alter course immediately. You are approaching unsafe distance. Alter course now. No reply. The Seahawk moves lower. Not reckless, not provocative. Just low enough to make sure there is no chance the warning goes unseen. Rotor wash tears at the water around the lead craft as the helicopter crosses its forward angle and slides into a controlling orbit. The crew chief leans into his harness, looking down through the open side. The sensor operator locks the camera onto the boat below. Every frame is clean, every movement is recorded. Every second is time-stamped. Back on the destroyer, weapons crews are fully manned. The 5-inch gun is trained, but not elevated for fire. 50 caliber mounts remain on target sectors, barrels pointed outward. The CIWS sits in tracking standby, its white dome locked in quiet readiness. No flashes, no smoke, no tracers. Just the disciplined stillness of a ship seconds away from violence, if violence is chosen for it. At 5:21, the lead Iranian boat cuts harder toward the outer screen. The destroyer responds immediately, pushing more speed into the turn and dragging a heavier wall of wake across the approach lane. From above, the Seahawk crew can see the problem the Iranian pilots are now facing. Continue straight and they run into turbulent water, thrown off by a US warship that outweighs them by orders of magnitude. Adjust wide and they lose the geometry of the charge. Slow down and the momentum of the swarm begins to fracture. That is how professional naval crews kill a rush without firing a shot. They do not just block holes, they take away options. The pilot transmits again. Voice unchanged. Iranian fast craft. Alter course now. You are entering a restricted safety zone around a United States naval formation. Alter immediately. Again, nothing. But the Iranians are no longer just closing on a carrier. They are now inside a trap made of angles, speed, optics, and steel. In CIC, one of the operators watches the closest point of approach figures tumble again. Lead contact entering weapons quality envelope. That phrase cuts through the compartment harder than any shouted alarm. Weapons quality. Not because anyone has fired. Because the approach itself is now precise enough, close enough, and aggressive enough to be treated as a real attack profile if it continues. The captain receives the update on the bridge and does not look away from the horizon. Stand by, he says. Nothing more. Below the Seahawk, the lead boat punches through the destroyer's outer wake. Bow launching, hull twisting, spray exploding off both sides. For one violent second, it looks almost airborne. Then it slams back into the water and keeps coming. Another Iranian craft tries to drift wider to the right, perhaps looking for a cleaner lane around the screen. The Seahawk sees it and immediately shifts position, banking hard, dropping lower, forcing its presence into that gap. The helicopter does not threaten with weapons. It threatens with certainty, with observation, with the unmistakable fact that every move is now exposed and tracked. The Iranian formation begins to stretch. Not break, not yet, but stretch. The rear pair are no longer perfectly aligned with the lead boat. Their spacing is widening. Their timing is slipping. One is still charging. Another hesitates over rough water before surging again. The shape of the attack is starting to come apart under pressure, and pressure is exactly what the US Navy is applying. No missiles, no warning shots, just the full weight of a carrier strike group turning the sea itself into a weapon. At 5:22, the lead Iranian fast boat crosses into the narrowest part of the approach, the point where one more committed move could force a lethal answer. Inside CIC, every tracker is locked. On the destroyer, every weapon is ready. Above them, the Seahawk circles tight, and out ahead of the carrier, 5 Iranian fast boats have entered the kill zone. The first crack appears not in metal, in timing. From above, the Seahawk crew sees it before anyone says it out loud. The lead boat is still committed, still hammering forward through the churn. But the 4 behind it are no longer moving like one blade. Their spacing has opened. Their rhythm is off. One is riding too far left. Another has dropped half a beat behind. The rear pair are beginning to fight the water instead of the geometry. That is what pressure does. Not explosions, not gunfire, pressure. The destroyer surges another few knots and drags a wider curtain of wake across the approach lane. Not a collision course, not even close. Something colder than that. A calculated shaping maneuver designed to force small, fast boats into bad water at bad angles, exactly when they need clean control the most. From the bridge of the carrier, the effect is immediate. The lead Iranian boat hits the outer edge of the wake, climbs hard, drops, then climbs again. Its bow kicks high enough to expose more hull than waterline. Spray bursts around it in white sheets. Behind it, one of the trailing craft tries to hold formation and gets thrown sideways, just enough to lose its clean line. Inside Combat Information Center, formation integrity degrading. Nobody celebrates, nobody relaxes, because a damaged attack profile can still become a lethal one in seconds. The Seahawk banks lower, cutting across the open side where one Iranian boat appears to be probing for a path around the destroyer's screen. The helicopter's nose swings through, deliberate and exact, forcing itself into the visual center of that lane. Rotor wash claws at the surface. The message is clear, even without another word on the radio. You do not have a free angle. You do not have a blind side. You do not have space. Still, the U.S. Navy transmits again. Iranian fast craft. You are maneuvering unsafely toward a United States naval formation. Alter course immediately. No response. But something has changed. The silence no longer feels defiant. It feels strained. The lead boat tries to keep speed, but the sea in front of it is no longer open water. It is broken water. Destroyer weight-crossing carrier wash. Layered turbulence thrown into the exact path it needs to hold. Small craft live on speed and agility. Take away smooth water, and speed turns into instability. Agility turns into guesswork. That is the trap now. Not made of missiles, made of control. On the destroyer, gunners stay fixed behind their sights. The Mark 45 remains trained. The CIWS holds ready. Fire control radars do not escalate. No one wants the next move to be mistaken for the first shot of a war. The goal is still the same as it has been from the first contact. Hold the line, show the line, make the other side choose whether to cross it. At 5:23, one of the Iranian boats on the outer edge tries exactly that. It breaks wider, angling for a cleaner route outside the wake field, perhaps hoping to flank the screen and get closer to the carrier's open quarter. The Seahawk answers instantly. The pilot rolls the aircraft into a hard, controlled bank and slides down into that space, low enough to dominate it, steady enough to make it obvious the lane is closed. From the boat below, it must have looked enormous. A gray American naval helicopter sitting over the water where their escape angle had just been. The boat checks itself. Not much. Just enough. Just one subtle reduction in closure rate. But in close maritime encounters, subtle is everything. Inside CIC starboard flanker slowing, then aft pair separating further. The swarm is no longer a swarm, not really. It is 5 individual boats now, each dealing with a different piece of the same problem. And that problem is American control of the water around them. The carrier has still not altered course. That may be the most important detail of all. A U.S. aircraft carrier, one of the largest and most valuable military targets on Earth, is moving forward through the Strait of Hormuz, while 5 Iranian fast boats try to force a reaction. And the carrier does not flinch. It does not turn out. It does not yield sea room. It lets its escorts, helicopters, sensors, and discipline do exactly what they were built to do. Quiet power, layered power, power that does not need to shout to be understood. The lead Iranian boat slams one more time through the wake and comes down crooked. For a split second, its nose yaws offline. The driver corrects, but the correction costs him speed. Behind him, another boat falls wide. A third begins to angle off. What had looked minutes earlier like a sharp, coordinated rush at a U.S. carrier is coming apart in plain view. Not because it was destroyed, because it was controlled. On the bridge, the captain watches through the glass as the lead craft loses its clean line and the others drift with it. Then comes the report everyone is waiting for. Lead contact, dropping speed. A beat later, port side element turning away. That is the moment, the first real bend in the charge. The first admission, not over radio, but over water, that the pressure has reversed. Iran had come forward expecting to force a reaction from the carrier group. Instead, the U.S. Navy had done something worse. Without firing a single shot, it had taken the sea away from them. At 5:24, the charge breaks. Not all at once, not dramatically. Just enough to tell every watchstander in the U.S. formation the same thing at the same time. Iran is backing off. From the Seahawk overhead, the change is unmistakable. The lead fast boat, the one that had driven hardest and longest through the destroyer's wake, is no longer holding a clean intercept line. Its bow still points toward the outer screen, but its speed is down, and its track is beginning to slide outward by degrees. Off its side, one of the other boats turns wider, no longer pressing in, no longer trying to keep the geometry of the swarm intact. The rear pair are opening the range. What had been one coordinated approach has become 5 separate decisions, and none of them are carrying the attack forward anymore. Inside the Combat Information Center, the surface picture updates in real time. Lead contact reducing speed. A second later, outer elements opening bearing. Then the one everyone has been waiting for, CPA increasing. That is the shift. The line moving away from the carrier instead of toward it. On the bridge, nobody cheers. Nobody relaxes into the moment. The captain keeps the same posture he has held from the beginning. Upright, still, eyes forward. Because the Strait of Hormuz does not reward premature relief. A boat turning away can turn back just as fast. A tactical withdrawal can still be a feint. And in close maritime encounters, complacency is how small threats become large ones. So the formation holds. The carrier keeps moving. That detail matters more than anything else. It does not turn out of the lane. It does not surrender sea room. It does not slow in confusion or accelerate in panic. It continues forward, exactly as planned. A floating airfield pushing through one of the most volatile waterways on Earth, while the small craft that tried to force a reaction begin peeling away from its screen. That is what dominance looks like at sea. Not noise, not spectacle, control. Below the Seahawk, the lead Iranian boat finally commits to the turn. Not a sharp break, not a humiliating retreat, just a gradual, unmistakable bend away from the destroyer's wake and out toward open water on the edge of the transit lane. Another boat follows, then another. Within seconds, the pattern becomes clear. The remaining craft are no longer searching for angles into the carrier group. They are searching for space away from it. The Seahawk stays with them, circling low enough to make sure every move remains under observation. The sensor turret tracks hull numbers, crew posture, weapons mounts, turn angles, engine wash. Everything. Every second recorded, every frame geotagged. The radio stays available. But now the helicopter barely needs it. The water itself is saying what the Iranians will not. The run is over. At 5:25, the destroyer eases its shaping maneuver. Not because the danger is gone, because the geometry no longer demands the same force. Gun crews stay manned. The Mark 45 remains trained. The CIWS stays ready. No one powers down early. No one pretends this was harmless. Because it was not harmless. 5 Iranian fast boats had charged a U.S. aircraft carrier inside a narrow strait and driven the encounter right to the edge of lethal response. The only reason it did not go further is because the Americans owned every part of the encounter that mattered. Spacing, speed, observation, posture, and patience. In CIC, the tactical summary begins taking shape even before the boats are fully clear. All 5 contacts, increasing range, no weapons release observed, no further intercept geometry. Formation restored. It is the kind of language that sounds cold until you understand what it means. It means the carrier is secure. It means the escorts did their job. It means the helicopter boxed the flank. It means no one fired because no one had to. By 5:27, the Iranian craft are outside immediate danger distance, still visible, still tracked, but no longer dictating anything. On the flight deck, the rhythm begins to return in careful increments. Not normal, not yet, just controlled. Sailors move with the aftershock of tension still in their bodies. Rotor wash settles as the Seahawk turns back toward the carrier. Steel remains ready, eyes remain outward. Nothing about the moment feels loud. That is why it feels final. Iran had come at the carrier expecting to create a headline, a moment of pressure, a picture of defiance in the tight waters of Hormuz. What they found instead was a U.S. Navy formation that did not panic, did not overreact, and did not surrender an inch more water than it chose to. 5 Iranian fast boats charged a U.S. aircraft carrier in the Strait of Hormuz. They thought they were forcing a reaction. What they got was something colder than firepower. They got control. And in the Strait of Hormuz, control is what decides who keeps coming forward and who turns away first.